I actually am just a kind of homegrown Midwestern girl, grew up in the evangelical church and was very much in that kind of community my entire life until really 2011.
And it was while April Leman was growing up in the evangelical church that she developed psychic gifts.
But they were all couched as, prophetic or hearing God, and kind of had certain language around it. And I was always taught that anything New Age, occult, anything spiritual that wasn't in direct alignment with Christian teaching was of the devil, literally.
But it wasn't these psychic gifts that put her at odds with her community. The rift came when, as a senior in college, she was pregnant and unwed.
I was forced to walk this bizarre line and was very much pressured to marry my child's father.
And she did marry him. The marriage lasted about 3 years until one day she woke up and said,
I'm done living this life. I'm done lying to myself. I'm done being this person that everyone wants me to be because I'm dying on the inside. And I just literally struck a match and lit my whole life on fire and walked away and didn't look back. In fact, I walked away from God completely and spirituality at that time. And then it took me probably 8 years to unravel the pieces and say, I call it figuring out, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you have to decide what is the baby and what's the bathwater.
As a self-described church refugee, April eventually returned to spiritual practice on her own terms and rediscovered a lot of aspects of spirituality that the church had told her were dangerous or off limits.
And actually, those were the things that I think fully healed me and kind of completed me as a person. And I like to say it's kind of all the same stuff, just with different vocab. I used to pray in tongues, and now we use something called light language.
Light language is thought of as a universal celestial or spiritual language that comes from cosmic beings in a different dimension. And it is also in this alternate dimension that we find the Akashic Records, a library of light containing all knowledge in the universe. An idea brought to us by the Theosophical Society in the 19th century that's making a new resurgence in the 21st. I'm Rachel Wilkinson, and welcome to Lifemancy. So I have a quick piece of housekeeping, and then we will get to it. I finally revealed my secret project. I have created a fully scripted and fully acted audio drama for Vampire the Masquerade that will release next week. Now, I know not everyone here is into vampires. Maybe you're into werewolves or mages, and that's okay. But it's called Vampire the Masquerade Port Saga. It's a vampire murder mystery that takes place in the fictional city of Port Saga. And it's basically an ode to the Vampire Diaries and Rice novels, True Blood, and VLARP events rolled into 10 episodes of noir-inspired drama. There's one trailer out right now. You can listen to it when you follow the show on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all of the regular players. But I am sticking a special, as of yet unpublished trailer at the end of this episode just for you. So if you like audio dramas, search for Vampire the Masquerade Port Saga and subscribe. That would be very helpful. And then stick around until the end of this episode to hear a trailer you're getting to hear before anyone else. Starseeds are alien-human hybrids living among us who can telepathically connect to their alien homeworld in other star systems. There are upwards of 20 different kinds of alien races, each with their own special mission and abilities. And when I read this, my question was, who has written this awesome role-playing game? Now, I have trouble sleeping for a lot of different reasons, but one of the main reasons is that my brain will not shut up. So I got this headband you sleep in, and there are speakers sewn into it so I could listen to meditations to chill this brain out. Well, one of these nights, I stumbled on a starseed transmission. It was a man who was using his starseed gifts to channel a message from his home dimension to help others leave the 3D world, our world, and enter the 5D world of enlightenment. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this isn't an RPG. This is a LARP. The next day, I lost hours Googling and discovered that this is where you get indigo children and lizard people and ancient aliens. And I learned about light language and how it has written symbols and spoken aspects and sung aspects. And when it came to this language, I wondered if I hadn't stumbled onto some sort of starseed nerd equivalent of knowing like Tolkien, Elven, or Klingon. But mostly, I wanted to know who created the language. All the internet would tell me, well, it was the internet, but all the internet would tell me was that it came from angels, light beings, or alien races, or old entities in the multiverse. And this Akashic library kept coming up over and over again. If any of you have watched The Magicians or read Matt Haig's The Midnight Library, it's kind of like the library in both of those, a storehouse of infinite information. The Akashic Records are located in the astral realm. They are made of light energy and store a literally infinite amount of information, all knowing of not just Earth and not just humans, but of every being, human or alien, every dimension, every multiverse, everything. It's like if you could Google the mind of God. I can't do an explanation of starseeds any justice right now, or at least not yet. And to be fair, that could be a podcast all on its own. And maybe that's an idea. In fact, you know what? I'll make a note of it. But then I saw that most of our modern understanding of starseeds, light language, and the Akashic Records comes from none other than the Theosophical Society. And I was like, Helena Blavatsky, you minx, what did you do now? So you could probably imagine my delight when I met April Leman, who could open and read the Akashic Records. So yeah, she agreed to be a guest, and we recorded her opening my records as part of today's episode. And it was, well, let's just say it was intense. So we're going to have a brief look at the astrology going on right now, and then I'm going to give you a brief history and context regarding the Akashic Records. And then, yeah, we're going to tap into the intelligence of a different dimension. I feel like it was a little fated to do Akashic Records because right now is a really good time for divination and psychic development. The new moon is in Virgo, which as an earth sign doesn't feel very psychic, but there is a conjunction between Mercury and the Gamma Virginis binary star system in the Virgo constellation. This binary star is located at the waist of Virgo and is named Parima. Parima is one of the Roman Camine, and the Camine are the attendants of the goddess of childbirth and prophecy. They derive their meaning from the idea that at childbirth they could predict the fate of a newborn. Parima and Postvorte are sisters, and Postvorte was the goddess of the past, and Parima was the goddess of the future. So these two goddesses worked in tandem, much like a binary star system. And now Mercury, the god of communication, is hanging out with them. So from now until the 20th, it is a great time to do divination work. And if you've ever been curious about methods like tarot cards or runes or pendulums or palm reading, now's the time to try it. And even if you aren't interested in picking up divination, you may also find that over the next couple of weeks, you'll have flashes of uncanny insight. Trust your intuition and psychic sense to anticipate and divine the right choices for your best path moving forward. The origin of the word Akasha is not precisely defined, but it's suggested that it comes from Sanskrit and can be translated to sky, atmosphere, or space. The Western equivalent would be something like ether proposed by Aristotle. In 19th century science, they still considered ether to be a thing, and two Scottish physicists, Balfour Stewart and Peter Guthrie, published The Unseen Universe, which, and I may not get this quite right, they looked at the visible universe, planets, stars, galaxies, etc., and understood that this matter would die eventually. But because energy can neither be created nor destroyed, they wondered where that energy came from and where it went. They then used this question as proof of an omnipresent creator entity that sparked the Big Bang from a different dimension. A handful of years later, and I'm talking about a handful, Akasha and ether were words adopted by the Theosophical Society. The Theosophical Society was formed in New York City in 1875. The founders of the group described themselves as seekers after truth, capital T, truth, as in enlightenment. And I think it is also important to note that the Theosophical Society formed the same year Stewart and Guthrie published their Unseen Universe. And it was Theosophical founders Helena Blavatsky and Henry Steele Alcott who presented the idea of Akashic Records. In 1888, Blavatsky wrote in her work The Secret Doctrine, "For the occultists, space and universe are synonyms. In space, there is not matter, force, nor spirit, but all that and much more. It is the one element, and that one, the anima mundi, space, Akasha, astral light, the root of life which, in its eternal ceaseless motion, evolves but to reabsorb all that lives and feels and thinks and has its being in it." So Blavatsky takes this leap with the word Akasha, changing it from meaning space or sky to astral light. And as astral light is that which creates all life in the universe. Henry Steele Alcott repeated the idea that everything came from Akasha, and that the Akashic Records are where the universe was conceived and chronicled. This library of astral light, containing all the knowledge of space, time, and dimension, is an example of science and spirituality coming together in the late 19th century to create, or at least solidify, the idea of the Akashic Records. A more modern example of science affecting spirituality is the relationship between string theory in the 1960s and the New Age movement of the 1970s. Essentially, experimental physicists figure out something new about the universe or are finally able to unravel a mystery, and then spiritualists build on it or co-opt it depending on your perspective. A similar thing is happening right now. The existence of a fifth dimension has been indirectly proved by the Large Hadron Collider. So physicists started an effort in February of this very year to find the hypothetical particle that can, quote, act as a portal to a warped fifth dimension that mediates the cosmic realms of light and dark. And if all that was a jumbly mess of gobbledygook, the TLDR is it's a dark matter thing. And at the same time, we have people talking about being starseeds and the Great Awakening, when we will transcend the 3D world and enter the fifth dimension. There has always been this push and pull between science, philosophy, religion, and belief. And what if, in the end, Plato had always been correct? He believed our souls were immortal and that we didn't learn new things so much as remember what we already knew. So I leave you with a question to contemplate. Does science inform our spiritual beliefs as we translate complex knowledge into stories we can relate to? Or have our spiritual beliefs inspired science to reveal the knowledge our immortal souls already possess? And while you think about that, April Leman is an intuitive business coach who offers astrology, tarot, and Akashic Record readings. As an Akashic Records reader, she acts as a bridge to channel for other people who would like to open their records and find out about their past and future lives.
Come and tell me what you need to know. We can stalk it and make it grow. Come and ask me what you want to know, and we can go from here.
So, how did you come into the actual intuitive work that you're doing? How did you actually say, Akashic Records is the thing I'm going to do?
It was actually our mutual friend, Tiffany Harlick with Wise Guys. And I got connected with her and did some classes. Well, then I ended up forming this group in Waco, which was very impactful for me. It was actually a group of women who were all, we call like church refugees. We had all left the evangelical church, one specific church that we were all in. It's very cult-like and was super harmful. So we all had this like spiritual trauma. We found ourselves in a book club together, and we read just this incredible book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Highly recommend it. And from there, we started getting more into doing our own spirituality. And all the women there were very gifted. And so we started doing something we call like energy circles, where we would just take principles, whether it's tarot or, even Reiki and different tools that we were just learning. And we would experiment on each other and see what happens. And so we were doing that. And someone turned me on to a woman named Ashley Wood, who teaches how to read the Akashic Records. She's very advanced in her practice. Her mission, she says that her goal is to modernize the Akashic Records. So a lot of the data and information on them is old school. It's like the original New Age movement, a lot back in the 70s. And if you start Googling stuff, you get a bunch of weird things that you're like, this is some bizarre website. I don't trust it. And so she's kind of leading and is in the forefront of bringing this whole new look and feel, making them more accessible in modern times. And so I started really getting connected with her, took her course and learned how to read. And once I got into the records, it felt like coming home. It was like, this is the energy that we were tapping into when we were doing our energy circles and working on each other. It felt very familiar. It felt very comforting. And so I took to it right away, and it became very natural and easy for me. And I think it was all of the years of doing spirituality in the church, I just was able to kind of pivot, and instead of it being under the context of patriarchy, oppression, just like capital R religion, it now was freedom, being sovereign in myself and discovering my own intuition. And just again, like I said earlier, on my terms. And so it was easy for me to jump into kind of head first. And I've just never looked back.
Oh, I was going to ask you what it felt like the first time you tapped into the records or the first time you opened a record.
Mm-hmm. It felt like this message of welcome home. We've been waiting for you. Like, so glad you're here. And that's how it feels to me whenever I take someone into their records for the first time. A lot of it is just like getting familiar with yourself. It's like walking into a house that was always yours, but you just never took occupancy. And you get to just walk in, all of your stuff is there. Everything is designed exactly how you like it, how you need it. And it's all for you. I'm like the realtor. I walk them in, hand them the keys and say, here you go. And, talk them through the process, but it's all about them and it's all about the person. So when I did that for myself, it was really impactful. And I really just like cried the whole time because it felt so comforting. It felt like being seen and understood on a like DNA level.
Well, okay. Now I'm going to get my Kleenex out because we talked. I've never had a reading before, but I am always curious. That's why I go do these things. I'm like, what weird shit are we going to do today? Yeah. So I actually found the most difficult aspect of preparing for this interview was what questions are you going to ask?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of reading, and there's 100 sites on the 50 best questions for Akashic Records.
Oh, okay.
And the 15 questions you can't open your records without asking, like it's all these like clickbaity headlines for the
Yeah.
Akashic Records. And I thought it's interesting to me how far we have come in the digital internet age that the BuzzFeed Akashic Records quiz is right around the corner.
The listicles have come for Akashic Records.
Where are we going when we open this record?
So it's literally another dimension. So there's energy that lives in the Pleiades star cluster. And what I was taught is that the energy that kind of resides over this library, if you want to call them the librarians, are this energy called the pinnacle. And a lot of people would know them as masters, teachers, and loved ones. That's how kind of the old school way of addressing them. But it's like the highest enlightened form of energy there is. Some people say like Christ consciousness or Jesus or like the Buddha descends from this energy as well. Like that is the energy they channeled while on earth. And we can access that. If you want to, describe it in one way, it's unconditional love, it's pure light energy, it's the highest vibration possible. And so it's completely pure. And this group of energy beings that resides over the records, they kind of just govern, and they've got some rules in terms of engagement if you want to get in there and really have the best experience. And so that's where the teaching kind of how to open the records comes in, because there are some do's and don'ts. But overall, they live in the Pleiadian star cluster. It's 444 light years away. They use that the numerology of the four is really impactful for them. So a lot of things happen in fours.
I was going to say they probably appreciate the four with their, whatever they use for a card catalog. So
yes, exactly.
Are they using the Dewey Decimal System? I don't know. Does anyone listening even know what the Dewey Decimal System is anymore?
Oh, I do. I remember learning that in school. Yeah. And so a lot of times like April 4th is a good day to go in, or, working with that numerology, it is really powerful and helpful, but they're just there. And so a lot of times when I do readings, I'm communicating with them. So I'm asking them questions about myself because, to use that librarian metaphor further, you're asking, I need to pull this book off the shelf. I know it's here, but I need you to help me find it. And so they'll kind of help navigate you through. And so sometimes when I'm reading for other people or myself, I'm getting answers right away. So for example, let's say you're wanting to understand more about where this certain pain in your back has come from and why you always have it, why you can't get rid of it no matter what you do. So as we're talking and you're expressing that you have a question, sometimes I immediately start getting answers downloaded into me. Other times it's pretty quiet. And so I have to ask or repeat the question. Pinnacle, can you help me understand? Like, can you bring forward any information around this? And I kind of formulate questions and address it to the Pinnacle because they are in charge. And I don't know why it's that way.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say, do you believe that you are mentally traveling to this place, or do you believe that that energy is coming to you where you are?
That's a great question. I really like to think of it as plugging into an external hard drive, that it's kind of an energy flow between the two. So some of me is leaving, but some of it's coming here. It's like we're opening. So I have a prayer that I pray to open the records. And that to me is like opening the portal, opening the connection so that we can plug in and let things flow and energy can be exchanged through that portal, through that cable, so to speak.
And how has it felt reading for other people?
It's been a trip. It has really up-leveled kind of faith in my abilities because I will start getting information. I'm not a medium. I'm not someone that goes into the world and like sees visions all the time. I'm just not. I'm pretty grounded, but I'm very sensitive and intuitive. But when I'm in someone's records, I just start getting information that I never would know otherwise. I'll see people's children and I will get messages from past loved ones and see like little messages that have special meaning to different people. So it's really cool to be part of that process and help people find their healing. I also feel like I'm a highly efficient reader because I did these 30-minute sessions that are abbreviated all through the month of June. And it was fast and furious. And we got so much done in that 30 minutes. So I'm a very efficient person in general. And I feel like I take that energy into the records. I'm like, let's go, let's get these answers, let's get it done. And you can be on your way. So it doesn't feel like, oh, we're sitting in there for a long time and it's really slow. It usually feels like I kind of go into a trance and it's boom, 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 boom.
Now, you have never done this on video, you said.
Right. People usually don't see me.
So if we need to turn the camera off, I will let you do that. But
No.
if you were good to have it on, it is for the patrons.
Yeah.
We'll get to see you do this thing. So as I was saying, I found the questions very difficult to come up with because I want to know all of the things. Like,
right.
My biggest thing was like, I can come up with 20 things I need to know like yesterday. So it was really about prioritizing what I was interested in you looking into.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I have settled on it. I am interested in trying to be a more creative thinker and a more creative person. And I would like to know how to do that. Like, what paths can I pursue or what things can I do that would help me become more creative? I also just want to check in and make sure that I am doing my soul's purpose work, or what is my soul's purpose work? Am I on the right track? Where are my next steps? What should I be doing?
Yeah.
I should know my dreams up there. Am I going to reach these dreams? Are these dreams in line with my soul's purpose?
Yeah, that's all very in alignment with what I normally touch on with people. The answers you get are the ones you need, not necessarily the ones you want. Everybody's records are different. And it's kind of like we just have to get in there to see. But I think pretty much always you'll walk away with a piece of insight that you didn't have before, and hopefully a level of peace and calm.
What do you need from me at this point?
Nothing right now. We're just going to take some deep breaths together. We want to begin to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Just connecting your body to the earth, thinking about your favorite place in nature. And I'm going to pray the prayer of the new world, which is how we open the records. And then we will see what messages come through. We gather together in light. We gather together in love. We gather together in knowing the messages from above. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our greatness. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our wisdom. Through the Akashic Records, we understand what's there. This prayer will help deliver us there. I wish to know Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. I wish to know Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel Rachel through the light of the Akashic Records. And now the records are open. So the image I'm seeing right away is this picture of you and your two cats. And you're standing on the top of this cliff. And there's just this wind kind of whipping around you. And you are just tiptoeing closer to the edge and peering down and wondering if you should jump, wondering if this is the right time, the right place, the right moment. And kind of the feeling I'm getting is that you wish someone would just come along and push you over so that the choice isn't yours, that you can just have that choice made for you. But if you wait, you'll wait forever because you are the one that has to decide. Are you going to go all in? Are you going to jump down and land wherever you land? Are you going to trust that the universe is there to carry you? Or are you going to stand here and wonder? Are you going to stand here and continue to ask the same questions over and over again? Are you going to stand here and wait? You have the guides around you. You've met them. You know who they are. You have that light around you that fills your spirit and fills your body. So what are you waiting for? Yes, it's scary, but what's the worst that can happen? You fall on the ground, shatter into a million pieces just so that you can pick it all back up again? No, we've been there. We've done that. You've been broken before, and your time to be broken is over. Instead of viewing yourself as shards of pottery strewn across the floor, rework your vision. Just adjust your perspective and see what we see, which is that you are actually a beautiful, beautiful piece of pottery, all in one piece. But you have been hardened, you've been worked over so that you are stronger than you could have ever been before. And you are truly a masterpiece. Your insight, your analytical mind, your detailed brain is so fixated on what is missing, what is wrong, what is broken. But your spirit is alive and it is at work and it wants to take over right now. And it's all up to you. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? You get to decide. Or you can wait here and we'll be here and wait with you. But I don't think you want to wait. I think you're ready to move on. And I think you're ready to move up. So again, the choice is yours.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I was feeling and seeing. How does that hit you?
Oh, well, of course it hits me. Of course, like my life is a series of tragedies. So. I did giggle when you said you're waiting for somebody to push you off. I mean, it would be really nice, but I admittedly have spent essentially my whole life letting other people make choices for me.
Oh,
So
fascinating.
yeah. So that's part of the thing that I was struggling with and part of the reason why I had my existential crisis, nervous breakdown, midlife. I don't even know what you want to call it, but it was because I realized I was essentially playing supporting roles in everybody else's stories instead of actually, engaging in my own or pursuing my own things. And I kept doing what conventional wisdom told me I was supposed to be doing. And in that way, I feel I empathize with you quite a bit in being your evangelical community. I was not in an evangelical community, but it's that same sort of, there was a series of expectations that you always had to do. And the promise on the other side of that was if you adhere to these expectations, you will be rewarded on the other side.
Yeah.
But what I discovered, there was no reward. There was just, for me, more pain and more unrealized dreams.
Yeah. What I always say to people and like what my community here in Waco, what we always share is now that we're out and we're doing everything on our terms, we're actually connecting with what was promised to us and we could never get before in that community, in that church environment. And so it's like we had to leave it all in order to find everything that we hoped we would receive in that world. As soon as you take your power back, that's when things start actually clicking into place. So it seems like you were like so many of us, especially women, who didn't connect with their voice, didn't connect with your own power, didn't connect with your ability to trust yourself and trust your own inner voice and inner guidance system. And so it's a sad and familiar story for so many of us. But it looks like you are on the edge of a breakthrough.
I should hope so. I should. I've had enough years of going and trying to work through this. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I did get the feeling of them saying, "Yeah, we're real. Could you please stop questioning us?" So that's the thing that always comes up quite a bit because even though this will happen, I'll still be in my journal being like, okay, is this just my mind?
Oh, I know. Me too. I do that all the time. I'm like, am I just making this up?
Yeah. And I was actually talking to some friends over the weekend about, again, a lot of people ask me what I believe. And I have just sort of taken to having to get comfortable saying, I don't know, I'm still in the middle of working that out myself. I've had some strange things happen. I have had some experiences. I have no way to explain those in any logical term whatsoever. So, take it for what it's worth. But on the other hand, I also accept that there are reasons things happen that have nothing to do with spirituality. A sort of skepticism and belief, evidence and faith. Like I got one foot on each side of that line.
Really, I think one thing that I've taken out of being in kind of an extremist church culture is that it was always a binary. It was either you're one or the other, you're all in, you're out. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. And so there was no room for gray area, for wrestling with, of questioning. And I think one thing I really celebrate is that one day I feel like everything is possible. I believe in all of it. And then another day I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like any of it is connecting with me at all. Maybe it's all a joke. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay walking that line and knowing that as long as I stay true to myself and follow my own integrity, that I will never really be led wrongly or incorrectly. And I won't lead others down any weird path either.
Right.
So just being comfortable in the complexity.
Yeah. Well, so
Yeah, what questions do you have?
yeah, I want to go back to these questions of, am I doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing? I already think I'm a creative person. I just want to be more creative. So maybe that's a little greedy, but it would be nice to be validated that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That will I ever step off the cliff? I don't know. We will see. But yeah, I guess I don't even know what I'm asking. You get a sense of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I have a sense. Don't worry. Okay. So kind of going back in a little bit, just gonna ask the pinnacle. Okay, we see you. We see you, Rachel. We have a message for you today, and it is about how correct you are, how much you have that is good and is right. And you are good, and you are right, and you are valid. Your existence is important. You are here to take up all the space that you want to take up. You are here to shine as brightly as you want to shine. And there is a fundamental core self worth stamp of approval that we want to give you today. That everything that you've been told or challenged around your validity, your abilities, your creativity, your talent, it's all lies. You have been gifted for a reason. And we just want to draw a line in the sand and separate you from anything hurtful and negative you've ever been told about your worth, your deservingness, your ability, your talent. It's all for you. Push away the worry about being greedy, push away the fear that you're going to take up too much space or you're going to talk too loud or you're going to go down some path that you don't need to go down. This is all part of the journey. And you connecting with those feelings of, I'm valid, my life is valid. I don't know why the valid word keeps coming up, but it's just a big word that I'm hearing again and again. And so before we even look at what to do next, let's just sit in this energy that you are worthy, that you are worth everything, and that you deserve it all, that you've done nothing wrong. And in fact, you've done a lot of things right. The only person holding you back is yourself. And it's all connected to your fear that you're asking too much or you're taking too much. And that's just not true. So where do we go from here? Where do we go? How do we access this creativity that you're looking for? It's dripping off of you. It's in your fingertips. It is when you type, when you are working with technology, you have this gift with technology that's really powerful. So that's definitely a yes to keep working with, recording, audiovisual stuff, anything like that. That's a special place for you where your kind of creativity comes to life. And then the other thing is really using your voice and speaking. That's another really critical piece for you.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really
Sorry.
seeing there.
Kleenexes had to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I think valid is an important word. When the worst of what I was going through, I did not believe I was. I described myself as a parasite who was breathing someone else's air who was more worthy of breathing it. And that, it is hard to describe to people what it is to think that. And anybody who is listening to this who has ever had depression, they understand what it is. I mean, they know what it is. They know where it comes from.
Absolutely.
But I have a lifetime of being worried that I am breathing someone else's air. And that's, yeah, it's so any thought of being valid, being worthy of taking up that space of just hearing it out loud that, I this is the one this is the this is the one area that I am not good at, that I am definitely not. Even just to have anybody say, you are valid, you're worthy, you are who you are, all of your experiences make who you are. And I understand that rationally.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind understands that rationally, but
It's at a core level.
yeah.
It's at that place that you can know things without feeling them on a subconscious level and living from that place.
Yeah, your heart knows when you're lying to yourself.
Exactly.
And so anytime I say, oh yeah, I'm totally here, and
Yeah.
all of those things, my inner knee jerk says, oh, that's not really true. You don't really believe that.
Well, I find it so interesting that they inserted and they were like, no, we can't look at anything else. We have to establish a baseline first. And the baseline is you're valid and you're worthy. And it just gives me chills because, we all need to hear that, but some
Oh
people
yeah.
need to hear it more because they maybe didn't hear it or had experiences that taught them different. And that's why it's like they wanted to draw that line in the sand and say, all of these thoughts, we're closing the door. We're closing the door on that you are breathing someone else's air. You get to breathe your own oxygen.
Yeah.
You do.
Thank you.
You're
And
so welcome.
and I'm kind of mad.
I know. Let's
Oops.
go ahead and close your record so that we're not continuing to sit in the energy. And I think that'll help you also shift
Okay.
gears because it'll still keep coming and you'll be in that until we close them. So I'm just going to give gratitude to Rachel for showing up, for being open. I give gratitude to her highest self for being present today. I give gratitude to the pinnacle for being our guide, for lighting the way. I give gratitude to the Akashic Records for being a source of infinite wisdom and truth. And I give gratitude to my highest self for showing up and serving as the channel. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. Okay.
Wow. Well, is it weird to say I enjoyed that experience? I
No,
don't know.
it's
Like,
not
I
weird.
enjoyed the experience. I mean, it's like, it's not that I wanted, my inside guts spilled all over for the entire world to hear, but
Yeah,
yeah, well, that's okay,
that's the danger.
Yeah.
Learning to open your records and get in there as part of a spiritual practice can really do a lot of good in your life. So, whether you're someone who's really nerdy about this stuff and into astrology and into all the things, or whether you're not at all, this is a great tool to have.
Well, I know that I am definitely going to be looking more into it because I think it'd be very interesting to be able to do it myself. But, I like to know all the things. I like to do all of the things. I want to be a librarian. So,
Yeah.
oh, gosh. Okay. Well, where can people find you and how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So, the best place to find me is through Wise Skies. I'm a Wise Skies intuitive. So, if you visit Wise Skies Collective online on the internet, you can book directly with me. I'm also on Instagram and do a lot of kind of spiritual content there. And my handle is at underscore April DL. And if you're wanting to just reach out, talk to me, get some more information about the records before booking, you can DM me on Instagram. You can email me at april.leman@gmail.com. And I will share whatever info I have, answer any questions you have. If you're ready to book a session and kind of want to go down the rabbit hole, you can do that through the Wise Skies website.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming today and talking with me and opening the records and making me bare my soul to the audience. And
Thank you for being so open.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. If you want to see my whole session with April or are interested in getting up close and personal with me snotting into a microphone, I know, what a sales pitch, right? Then join the Lifemancy fan club at patreon.com/Lifemancy where you can catch the video. And as promised, here is that trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Port Saga.
Blood. There's the blood you give, The blood you take, the blood you spill, the blood you drink. In the city of Port Saga, blood is everything. Camria City, a true ivory tower port of call, replete with ruthless corporations, corrupt politicians, shady cops, and hapless mortals. Perfect place for vampires. They're the ones who drive this city and drain it, leaving husks in their wake. I tried to leave it, move past it, but every single time it pulls me back. I'm caught in the ocean's tide, bound in shallows and miseries, bound to this place.
If you like what you heard, please hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss the first episode when it drops next week. Until next time, friends, it's my podcast, and I'll cry if I want to.